So what's the biggest hiccup on why you haven't bought a car yet?
$929.99 a month.
How much you end up paying a month?
Welcome to the Audit Room, where we analyze real financial decisions from real people. We discuss what went wrong and then provide valuable feedback and insights that we can all learn from. Auto loan debt, which if you didn't know, in the United States alone accounts for over $1.69 trillion. To put that number in perspective, because it's so hard to conceptualize, if you spent $1 million every single day, it would take you a grand total of 4,657 years to spend all of that money. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the people that account for that $1.69 trillion worth of auto loan debt.
We bought a $40,000 car that we absolutely could not afford and had to trade it in 9 months later. In 2021, we walked into a car dealership in Kansas City and we walked off the lot with a 2021 Toyota Highlander that we absolutely could not afford. We had zero business buying that car, but yet somehow they still let us walk off the lot with it. We were making decent money and getting by at that time. I had a 1-year-old and I was pregnant with my second daughter and needed a mom car. No, I didn't, newsflash. About 6 months after that, we moved to Montana and pretty much started over our entire lives. So we couldn't afford that payment anymore. We were paying $750 a month for this car. And to put that in perspective, our mortgage in Kansas City was $850. Everything was much more expensive up here and we weren't making the same income we were making in Kansas City at first. So we decided to just go ahead and trade it in. We took the hit and learned the lesson. Honestly, I don't regret getting out of that situation.
So I'm going to start this off by saying I don't understand what this obsession is with SUVs and crossovers. If I leave my house, the only thing I actually see on the road nowadays is trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. And everything is either gray, white, or black. And it's really just depressing. And it seems like everybody is pretty much driving the same vehicle because they all look the same pretty much. It's funny that she went and bought a Toyota Highlander SUV for her growing family, because I'm sure her last car was starting to feel cramped, so she needed more cargo space. Well, I just looked it up, and the Toyota Highlander actually has 84.3 cubic feet of cargo capacity, which is interesting because the Toyota Sienna minivan actually has 101 cubic feet of cargo capacity, which is just substantially more. Toyota Sienna is actually getting much better gas mileage, and it's just all around more practical. If you do have a growing family, a minivan actually might be a way more practical and better decision for the entire family. And the reason people don't buy a minivan is because there's a stigma around them. You're not cool when you drive a minivan, but as my family starts growing, I'm definitely going to be the dad rocking the minivan because I have no shame in practicality and straight up economy. Financing a brand new vehicle could potentially be the worst financial decision you could make in your life. I really hope it worked out for this lady. I can't really say whether it was a good decision or not to trade it in for a different vehicle because I don't know the numbers. But speaking from a financial perspective, new vehicles lose the most amount of money in the least amount of time. We've all heard the saying where you drive this vehicle off the lot and it loses like 20% of its value in the first time it leaves the lot. Well, that's true, and thankfully Toyotas are one of the vehicles that usually hold their value pretty well on the used market because they have a general reputation of being reliable vehicles. But if you ever find yourself in this position where you bought a new car and you realize you can't afford the payments, then it's probably best to just sell that car entirely and buy a used car for $10,000 or under, with the ceiling there really being $10,000. If you don't know that much about cars, there is plenty of mechanics that you can pay $100 and they will do a full inspection and they will literally find anything on that vehicle that would make it unreliable. And then we have access to the internet. There are used vehicles out there that, in my opinion, are more reliable than new vehicles. So if you're worried about vehicle reliability, being able to make it to work every day, and you think you need a new vehicle, go on the internet and do some research because there are some old vehicles that are extremely reliable. And even though I have made extremely good money in the past, I have always just driven old vehicles because financially, it just makes more sense to me. And I've also learned how to work on my own vehicles. So that's the option that I take. If you do want to just buy a new vehicle and you have to have a new vehicle, invest into it for the long term, because really the only way you're going to get your money out of that, speaking from just a purely value perspective, is if you go ahead and buy that new vehicle and you drive it for the next 20 years. Now, let's be honest. Most people are not buying a new vehicle to drive it for the next 20 years. They're buying a new vehicle just because it's a status symbol and they want to just look cool in front of their friends. That is perfectly fine if you have the money to pay cash for a new vehicle and you can actually afford it without stressing out, then by all means, go buy that new vehicle. But if you have to finance a new vehicle at an 8% interest rate, let's be real. It's just not a good financial decision. Please, let's stop lying to ourselves and saying it's for reliability or for safety, because we can get reliability and safety for a fraction of the cost. With some people getting into life-altering amounts of debt over an auto loan, it makes me think, how hard are these salesmen pushing people to buy these cars and get into this crazy debt?
So what's the biggest hiccup on why you haven't bought a car yet? If you're looking at buying a car and you haven't bought it yet, what's the biggest reason you haven't bought it yet? Tell me in the comments, maybe I can help. And follow Ramsey Sells Cars.
This user commented $50K for a bare bones XL, extended cab truck, straight from a Ford build. Dealerships will add an extra 10 to 20% markup on that. $50K for a bare bones dinky V6 pickup. Now, I have to completely agree with this user. The markup that dealerships have, I think, is keeping a lot of financially literate people away from them, because look at what Tesla's doing. You buy straight from Tesla. There's no salesmen that are pressuring you, and there's no middleman where they have to mark up the cost of the vehicle in order to pay that middleman fee. Y'all want $45K for a mid-sized pickup and $85K for a full-sized. Does that answer the question? The reason America has $1.69 trillion worth of auto loan debt is an optics issue. The way that car salesmen have been able to finesse selling these cars. There's nobody out there that would pay $45,000 for a base model pickup. Instead, the salesman can get them, well, look at it this way. You're only paying $450 a month for the next 8 years of your life. And $450 a month, well, that sounds pretty manageable. I mean, most people spend, around that on groceries for a family of 4, so it's basically the same price as groceries. And that's just how people will justify this huge payment in their head, not adding it up with the interest rate and everything, and realize, wow, I have way overpaid for this vehicle.
$929.99 a month. $660 a month. $1,450 a month plus $350 a month for the roof. It's an all-metal roof. Not bad.
In what world does it actually make sense to be spending more monthly on your vehicle payments than your mortgage on your house? And I don't even need the specific numbers to tell that this was a bad decision. I know this was a bad decision because he didn't have the money on hand for a new roof. He had to finance that as well. And by the way, the video cut off early, but he's also paying another $250 for his camper. Now, what's crazy to me is this guy is spending almost $1,600 a month on his vehicle payments, and his brand new Chevrolet Duramax 2500 heavy-duty truck is nearly $1,000 of that payment. And you'd have to ask yourself, well, maybe he is a truck driver because it says traveling trucker on his TikTok name. So maybe he's a truck driver and then he needs that brand new truck for his job. So it's actually an investment for his job, and that's what he uses to haul trailers and stuff. But no, you'd be wrong. It's just for fun. He just bought the truck to pull his camper for fun, just for recreation. And I don't know about you guys, but most people only go camping a couple times a year. So imagine spending over $1,200 a month for a truck and a camper just to be able to do something a couple times a year. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on one specific hobby. And then I guess you could also argue like, well, the truck isn't just for camping. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. It's a It's a utility vehicle. I actually have a business where I need a heavy duty truck, and I actually bought a 25-year-old heavy duty 1-ton Chevy truck for a grand total of $8,000, and I paid cash for that, and I have not had a single issue with it, and it pulls all the heaviest trailers that a new truck would, just not as fast. But here's the thing, I don't need to go 100 miles an hour up a hill on an interstate. I can just do the speed limit, and I'm happy with that. It still gets the job done. We've got one last video to watch, but before we get to that, I want to say when I reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm actually doing a free money giveaway. So if you want the chance to win some free money, completely free, no strings attached, all you have to do is, number 1, subscribe to this channel. Number 2, leave a comment on this video or any other video, and then like a video. That's all you have to do, and you are automatically entered into the free money sweepstakes in order to win $150 completely free. Now let's get back to the actual video, and trust me, I saved the hardest to watch one for last. Let's go.
And how much you end up paying a month? How much you end up paying a month?
Too much.
What's too much?
Where we getting ready to take a picture at?
Right here.
Oh, by this car?
Yeah, by your new car. Came in for an oil change.
I know, right?
Now you left with more debt. But how much you pay a month?
Throw this tissue at you.
Yeah, how much you pay a month?
$5.20.
There you go.
What?
0 down. The goose egg.
Let's give some props to that salesman, because if you can sell someone on a brand new car that just came in for an oil change, you're a pretty slick or sleazy salesman. Now, the craziest thing ever to me is people will literally go in to buy a brand new car and then we'll put a total of $0 down towards the principal of that car. Now, in order to demonstrate how much of a difference putting a down payment down on an auto loan can make, I have ran 2 different scenarios through a calculator. That way you can see just the raw numbers. So in this first scenario, the car is $50,000. They're going to finance it for 60 months, a 10% interest rate, and they put $10,000 down at the start of the loan. Okay, their monthly payment is $850. Upfront payment, $10,000, just like we discussed. So they only need to borrow $40,000. So the total price, once they have completed the payments on the car and the car is completely paid off, the total cost is $60,992, almost $11,000 that's paid in interest rate alone. And as we can see the breakdown right here, 22% of the cost is the interest rate, and 78% of the cost is the principal, which is the money that's actually going towards the car. Now, in this next calculation, it's the exact same numbers, only they didn't put any money down, and this person needed to keep that $850 a month payment. So they're actually keeping the monthly payment the same, because in this scenario, this person can only afford $850 a month. So in order to meet that $850 a month requirement, we had to stretch this loan out to 81 months. Same price of the car, $50,000, same interest rate of 10%, but the down payment, if you notice, is $0. Now their total loan amount is $50,000 instead of $40,000. And as you can see, the total price after everything is said and done is $68,959. And if you can see the loan breakdown right here, actually almost $19,000 is going to the interest rate. Only 73% of this loan is principal. So 27% of every dollar you pay doesn't even go towards paying off the car. If you want to learn more about loans that you have currently or loans that you're thinking about getting, it's always a good idea to go online and just type in auto loan calculator or mortgage calculator and just play with the numbers in there. That way you can actually see what stuff is going to cost you, because interest rates can be extremely deceiving. Repossessions are also at an all-time high. Between 1.5 and 2 million repossessions a year in the United States alone. That's about 5,000 car repossessions a day. Today, we've got some crazy videos to show you exactly how bad the auto loan crisis has gotten. Let's take a look.
I'm learning the hard way that just because you can make a payment on something doesn't mean that you can afford it. For 30 years, I have lived with a mindset of if I want it, I'm going to get it. I didn't care what it affected or who it affected, if it was going to cause us to not meet one of our goals or if it was going to cause us to live paycheck to paycheck. And now I'm 48 years old. I've already lived half of my life, and I'm just now figuring out what that mindset actually cost me, which was peace, progress, and a whole lot of missed opportunities. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm learning the hard way, and it has cost my family, and it has cost me. Here I am stuck in a car that I had to have 2 years ago, financed $78,000 for it. I pay $1,100 a month. I owe $57,000 on it, and they appraised it for $40,000, and we don't even own our own home yet.
Okay, wow. Let's take a closer look at those numbers that she just kind of glossed over real quick. So the original loan was $78,000, and that was 2 years ago. She owes $57,000 on the vehicle, and it was appraised, and it's only worth $40,000. Now, in just 2 years, that's a 49% drop in value. A whopping $38,000 loss in 2 years. Now, usually in a business, when you take a loan out for something, you're going to beat the interest rate with the profit that you're going to make from that money that's coming in. That's the only time it's smart to take out a loan in business. So I'm trying to figure out why that logic would be any different when getting a loan for a new car. People always tell me that the repairs for the old car cost a lot of money and buying a new car could be cheaper, but I don't know about you, I've never paid $20,000 a year for car repairs. In fact, I can buy a reliable $10,000 car every year and still come out on top. Now, let me get one thing clear here. I'm a huge advocate for it's your money, spend it how you want. If you want to spend $200,000 on a Lambo and you've got the cash to put down on it, and that's what really makes you happy and that's what you really want in life, and spend the $200,000. But I can almost never recommend somebody finance a vehicle, especially when the interest rates are getting into the 15%, 20% APR. The interest you're paying on that just gets ridiculous, and it's just not a good way to spend your money because you're just giving so much of it to the bank and none of that money is even going towards the car. With that being said, minimizing the amount of net worth that you have tied up in depreciating assets like vehicles is going to be the best. Just keep that as low as possible. Now, this lady got a loan for $78,000 and she didn't have a house yet. Now, I understand a lot of people, home ownership, it's not a goal that they even care about, but $78,000 is a quarter of the way to a basic home, especially in the Midwest. That would be $312,000. Can you imagine if she just, instead of putting all that money into a vehicle, just saved it? She could buy a home for almost cash. Speaking of cash, that reminds me, once we hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel, we're doing a free cash giveaway. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, comment on a video, and like a video. And that's it. You're entered in for a chance to win free cash. Once I hit 1,000 subscribers, one lucky person is going to get $150 sent to them completely free, no strings attached. All you need to do is subscribe. Now, before we start this next video, let me ask you one question. How much would you pay for a basic Nissan SUV that doesn't have four-wheel drive? Got a number in your head? Okay, now let's see how much they actually cost.
Would you pay over $72,000 for a Nissan? This is the 2025 Nissan Armada SL rear-wheel drive. It has a starting price of $62,970, an extra $750 for the captain's chairs in the second row, another $3,370 for the Pro Pilot Assist package, which is like the ambient lighting, head-up display, and intelligent all-around view. You've got $400 for the splash guards, another $560 for the crossbars, another $550 for the carpet floor mats, and then a $2,010 destination fee, which brings the total to $70,610. Then this dealership adds another $2,195 for the Nissan Pro Pack, which is basically window tint, wheel locks, and nitrogen in the tires, which brings the total price to $72,805 for the 2025 Nissan Armada.
First of all, you just know this dealership is scammy when they're trying to do the old gimmick of upcharging you for putting nitrogen air in your tires when the normal air we breathe is already 78% nitrogen. Like, how dumb do they think people are? And to even put that on the vehicle and say you're upcharging for it is just crazy. Just imagine all the other little things they tacked on that they're basically just scamming you out of. And tack on they did. Let's not forget, this is essentially a base model, two-wheel drive SUV for $74,000. Now, MSRP for this is $62,970, so that's already $12,000 over, and I know they said those features were this much, but, you know, they could easily just be fudging those numbers just a little bit, and maybe those features actually come with the base model, so who knows. Now, I was genuinely intrigued by the price tag of this. $74,000 is mind-blowing for me. I don't know if it's mind-blowing for you guys or if I'm the crazy one, but I figured, hey, maybe they're justifying that price somehow. So, you know, let's see how much horsepower this thing has. Let's see what kind of engine this thing has. So, first of all, I looked up the horsepower. 425 horsepower. That's pretty good. Okay, that's above average, I think. To get that 425 horsepower, they took a 3.5 liter V6. Now, if you don't know that much about cars, a 3.5 liter engine is not that big. It's actually quite small considering this is a full-size SUV. So now you might be wondering, well, how are they squeezing all of that horsepower out of a 3.5 liter engine? And the answer to that is turbochargers. Now, turbocharging an engine isn't inherently bad, but it adds several more points of failure, especially when you have two turbochargers, like in this vehicle. Putting turbochargers in a soccer mom daily driver type of vehicle 20 years ago would have been basically unheard of. Manufacturers didn't do it because, like I said, it added more points of failure. The unreliability factor was something of concern back then. And the only reason manufacturers are doing it nowadays is not because the technology has improved. It's basically the same but more complicated. They're doing it because of the government emission standards. See, the government emission standards get more and more strict every single year, forcing the manufacturers to make smaller and smaller engines while still hitting the same horsepower numbers that their customers expect. Does this help the MPG? Well, not really. Believe it or not, better emissions out the tailpipe does not necessarily equate to better MPG. And I looked up the MPG numbers for the new Nissan Armada, and it's 18 combined. Not terrible, but not good by any stretch of the imagination. Basically, the biggest loser in every scenario is the customer, the person that's buying the car. This is why I always tell people, just because a vehicle is new doesn't mean it can't break down, especially nowadays when the quality control has just hit rock bottom. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just going to stick to my local Facebook listing and buy a $5,000 20-year-old Suburban. It's going to probably be more reliable anyway, and it gets the same MPG. Well, this girl made a post saying, me, because my dumb A decided to finance a vehicle for the first time ever in 2024, not fully understanding the damage of having an APR of 18%. Now I've paid well over $6,000 so far to this vehicle. Only $1,000 has actually gone to paying it off, and I still have $21,000 to pay. The original price was $22,000. It's not completely their fault. In the United States, compound interest and debt and basic things of personal finance are never actually taught in the school system ever. It just seems like a really basic thing they could gloss over quick in one of their classes, and it would save thousands of kids from going into huge debt that basically ruins their future finances. But on the other hand, the American economy is fueled from debt. So maybe the people at the top don't want that. If you need just one reason not to buy a new car, watch this next video.
How horrible the depreciation has been on the Karma. Now, I don't know who's buying these. I've literally never seen one on the streets, but here you have one for sale, brand new, for $145,000. And here you have one from 2021 with only 9,000 miles for $54,000. So if you bought this car brand new, you would have lost yourself around $100,000, which is insane. Now, I do think these look pretty cool. Design-wise, I would take this over a Model S for sure. I've literally never seen one on the street before, so I don't even know if these are good cars, bad cars. Honestly, I have no idea. And I'm really curious if any of you guys have owned one or know anyone who's ever owned one, if they're reliable. I would think they're not going to be very reliable cars, but I could be wrong. Either way, it's a car I would definitely.
So this is an electric car with an insane range of just 61 miles. 81 miles if you get the 21-inch wheels, less drag. But with all jokes aside, it's actually a plug-in hybrid. So after those 61 miles of electric battery run out, the generator kicks on, so you get to listen to an engine scream at the same RPM while it charges the battery so you can drive. It's basically just a luxury performance version of a Toyota Prius. I think it's pretty obvious once you take a closer look at this vehicle why it's depreciating so fast. Well, number one, we know EV vehicles depreciate insanely fast because batteries have a limited lifespan. Eventually, they have to be replaced. And as we've learned with Tesla cars, if just one cell of that entire battery pack goes out, you can't just replace that one cell of the battery. No, all the voltages in that whole battery pack have to be close enough or the computer won't let the car move. So you end up having to drop the entire battery pack and replace the entire thing, which can be upwards of $30,000. And the worst thing about these new electric vehicles, in my opinion, is everything is just way too overcomplicated. Everything has to run through the computer. You want to open your gas cap? Well, there's a button on your phone you can do to open, but it's got to run through the computer. There's got to be wires that run through there. You want to open your door handle? Well, that's got to run through the computer. You want to do literally anything in the car that should just be dead simple and mechanical and require no wires or electricity or computers. Well, they figured out a way to overcomplicate it and make it more expensive. That way, when it breaks, it's going to cost you a small fortune, actually probably a large fortune. It's just inevitable that one of the many tens of thousands of sensors is going to either break or misread something and your car won't be able to move. You're going to have to take it to the dealership to get it repaired because a normal person is going to have no way of figuring out what is wrong and how to even fix that with how much technology and complexity they're pushing into these cars. And pair that with this company, Karma, that I'm sure nobody has heard of, that nobody even knows where you can find a dealership to do the repairs. It's no wonder why they have depreciated so fast. Today, we're going to be looking into some people who went into incomprehensible amounts of auto loan debt. And then I'm going to be looking at the auto loan industry as a whole to see how it's gotten so predatory and how our auto loan deficit has reached almost $1.7 trillion.
Buying a new truck after doing a bankruptcy. Some people are saying this and saying that. No, check it out. You could do a bankruptcy, and the same month that you go to court and get it discharged and they send you the paperwork saying it's discharged, you go into a dealership like over here at Gresham Dodge and they'll put you in a vehicle, a brand new vehicle. I originally came in here after my bankruptcy and they got me a $60,000 loan on a pickup truck right after my bankruptcy. So if you want any of these new Jeeps or you want some of the new Rams and you got to do a bankruptcy, do your bankruptcy. It's $1,400. You come in here the same month you get your discharge paperwork, finance a brand new vehicle, and drive off the lot and start building your credit.
I'm sorry, what did this dude just say? Actually, now that I think about it, I should not be laughing. This is actually deeply concerning, especially since he's going on TikTok and telling other people to do this, like to follow his advice. The first thing I want to touch on is what he said at the end. Get an auto loan and start building your credit back up again. See, when I was in high school and I got my first job, I remember a lot of my coworkers and older people around me telling me to, hey, get an auto loan because then you can start building your credit up and then you'll get good credit, you'll pay it off and build that up. While technically that is true. If you go into debt for a car and then you pay off your loan on time every month, you will build up your credit score. But there's a much better way to do this if you don't have any credit at all or extremely low credit, and that's go get a credit card, set that credit card to auto pay every month the full balance, and then make for damn sure you never spend more money on that credit card than you have available to spend. If you pay your credit card balance off in full by the end of every single month, it will build your credit score and you will never pay one single penny in interest. Now, this is actually what I did when I got out of high school because I had zero credit. And I actually got my credit score up to an 800 just by doing this, and I never paid a single penny in interest. So it can be a really powerful way to do this. Don't go get an auto loan or don't go get a personal loan and pay a bunch of interest, especially if you have low credit or no credit at all. They're going to basically extort you and charge you an exorbitant interest rate on that loan. So it's going to be like even worse. So just pay off your credit card every month and it doesn't cost you any extra money. Unfortunately, that was actually the least concerning piece of advice he gave in this entire video. Bankruptcy is a tool that is there for people who have absolutely no way out. Bankruptcy basically allows you to financially reset your entire life, just erase the board and start from zero. It's actually kind of a crazy thing if you think about it because first of all, your bankruptcy has to be approved by the court, basically saying, yes, this is legit. It gets reviewed by a judge and everything. And what will end up happening if your bankruptcy actually gets accepted, all of the companies that you owe debt to, the credit card companies, the auto loan that you have, all of that just gets reset. And the companies just actually absorb all the debt. It actually kind of blows my mind that the court system is forcing them to lose money based on someone else's financial irresponsibility. So it can be a really good saving grace for people, but also it forces these companies to take a loss. That being said, if you file for bankruptcy a second or even third time and you have the exact same patterns of spending that got you into that situation in the first place, there's a really high chance that the court system might actually just straight up deny your bankruptcy and you would be stuck trying to pay a loan that is essentially impossible to pay back. So you would either have to win the lottery or straight up flee the country. If you have a family or anything like that, somebody that relies on you, I mean, there would be nothing you could do to fix it. With that being said, there are some vehicles out there that have literally doubled in price. Let's take a look at this.
How is a Ford Maverick $43,000? $43,000. I really want to know who's buying a Tremor Maverick, right? Because you're not good in the good MPG, right? Look at that, 23 combined? 23 MPG for this tiny little thing. This thing's tiny. Is that even, like, what is that, 4 feet? But 43 grand and it gets 23 MPG. When the hybrid ones get almost 38 MPG. So literally, who's going to buy the Tremor one when you want this one? But then Ford also messed up because who's buying this one?
So when the Ford Maverick first came out back in like 2020, that truck MSRP'd for $20,000. Like, yes, that was the price. It was just a base model, simple truck with no gimmicks, and it was just cheap, and everybody liked it. So I was wondering, how did they get this trimmed up version of the truck up to $40,000? I thought maybe they like shoved a giant V8 in it. Everything is just so cool about it. Maybe it's like 600 horsepower engine, but I was wrong. I thought there was more to it, and there's not. It's literally just a lift kit, all-wheel drive, and it has the exact same engine as the base model Ford Maverick, the 2-liter EcoBoost engine. So yeah, Ford essentially just put bigger tires and a lift kit on a tiny little truck and then charged you $20,000 for it. Let's not forget that it only gets 23 miles per gallon combined instead of the base model's 38 mpg. It's because they kept the 2-liter little tiny engine. The thing has just got to be screaming with those big tires on it. I mean, I get it, right? So like airlines make most of their money with first class tickets because their profit margins are just way higher. But I just don't really understand who would buy this truck, because if it's somebody that's trying to flex their money and show off and buy it as a status symbol, the Ford Maverick is known as an extremely cheap, economical vehicle. You're not going to buy that to show off to people. Like, people are going to not think it's $40,000 just because it says Tremor on the side of it. So really, like the guy said in the video, who is this truck actually for? Do you like absolutely free money? Because now is your chance to win some. I am doing a 1,000 subscriber free money giveaway. And the only thing that you have to do to win the free money is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and drop a comment down below about anything. That is all you have to do, no strings attached, and you're entering in for a chance to win the free money. $150 completely free, no strings attached.
So you owe how much on this?
I owe 31.
What's it worth?
So right now, I see the market and everything was like on 40 something.
No way. Can you start up for me? Moment of truth.
I just want to get rid of this car. I co-signed with somebody else, and then that person just gave me 2 options. Give the car to her. That's something that I'm not
She's
doing.
not here, right?
Not yet.
We can't take it.
I can call her and do everything through the phone. She can be on FaceTime. I just want to get rid of the car.
She has to be here.
She's like an hour away from here. So
She's got to come in.
she's not going to co-sign the other car with me. My dad's going to.
I know. Does she know this is happening?
Yeah.
But honestly, I think this car's worth 30.
I owe 31.
You owe
Can
31.
Can you do like at least, because I will not have no down payment, can I at least do 33? Just like to have something on the other car.
You're buying this car right here?
It can be this one. It can be the other one. I saw some M3s in the back.
Do you want it to be this one? I think it's 82 or maybe less. It's got buckets, ceramics. It's a high sticker car. You're cool with stick, right?
No. It gotta be manual. It gotta be automatic.
It's gotta be automatic? All right. Let's go inside. Give him 33 for the trade-in and see if you can get him approved. Then we'll work the deal.
From 31,000 in debt to 80,000 in debt. Dude has no business in a $50,000 car, let alone an $80,000 car if he needs a cosigner. This is where co-signing can get super messy, because technically she has just as much legal right to that car as he does right now, since she co-signed for him. And it sounds like she's the ex-girlfriend, so she could basically screw him over if she wanted to. And if I heard that correctly, it sounds like his dad is going to have to co-sign for him to upgrade to the $82,000 car. Not hating being realistic, this guy needs a 2020 Camry. People needlessly drowning in car debt. If you're that worried about $2 or $3 grand, you should not be buying an $80,000 car. You know, honestly, I agree with this, and I can't say I know how much he makes. That's never disclosed, but his credit score must be severely terrible, because he has to co-sign on every single thing he buys. Either his credit score is terrible, or the car payment is actually way more than he can actually afford on paper, and that's why he needs the cosigner. Either way, he really shouldn't be buying these cars. So, funny story about co-signing. My brother was actually moving into an apartment at one time, and his girlfriend was also moving in with him. The problem was, he put his girlfriend's name on the lease, and they figured out, well, this girl has 0 credit. She's never used credit before. So we're going to need someone to co-sign for her to see if she's good for the payment. And my brother was literally like, if you're worried about us not paying the lease, I can actually just pay for the entire lease up front, because it was like $1,000 a month. So he's like, I'll just give you $12,000 cash right now. And they literally said, that's not how our policy works. You have to follow the rules just like everybody else. So my brother starts asking all of the family if someone out there can co-sign for him. And my dad just flat out told him no. So then he came to me and he asked me, and initially I said no because I was worried about it affecting my credit. And then I realized, like, if I don't co-sign for him, he's literally going to be homeless. So I decided to co-sign for him, but charged him a small fee, since I'm putting my credit score on the line for him. People who are earning well above 6 figures but still somehow live paycheck to paycheck, which you would think is pretty rare, right? If you're earning that much money, you shouldn't be broke. But if you look up real statistics on this subject, almost half of all Americans earning over 6 figures are living paycheck to paycheck. Now tell me, how is that possible? Maybe the United States doesn't have an income problem at all. Maybe the United States has a spending problem.
I know everybody's wondering how much was I making. So I want to say during the years of 2017 through like 2020, 2021, maybe the beginning of it, on average, I think like my yearly salary was around like $300 to almost $400,000.
Just to put this in perspective a little better, let's take the middle number and just say she was making $350,000 a year. If you multiply that by 4 years, that's $1.4 million total.
From social media. I no longer make that. We'll get into that. That's how much I was making at that time, doing all those things. What was my average monthly take home? My average monthly take home, like when you really broke it down, depending on the year, I would say monthly, I was bringing in an average of anywhere between like $20,000 to $30,000 a month. Hey, that's crazy. And like sometimes I would like really hit the lotto and I would like do a brand deal. Like I think, I'm not gonna say the name of the brand. There was a brand I worked with at a time that like for like 2 Instagram posts, I was charging like $40,000. I will never forget it. It was like literally one of my highest paying things ever. $40,000 for like 2 Instagram photos. That's crazy. So where was the money going? Buying myself whatever the hell I wanted at the time. I was also spending a lot of money on all of my friends because I was making the most amount of money at the time and I just wanted to like spend it on everybody else. And then, you know, I was just doing stupid shit at the time because I had like a lot of money. Like I would go to the strip club with my friends and spend $1,000. Like it was ridiculous. And I was young. That's the thing too. Like now would I be doing those practices if I had that money? Holy shit, no. I look back at a lot of that and I'm like, well, that was...
There is not a doubt in my mind that this girl, if given the same opportunity, would repeat the exact same thing that got her into this situation. Look at this. She left this little message here. To be honest, don't regret half of the club expenses, though I really made some of the greatest, funniest memories during that wild child era. Come on.
Stupid. But the reason I say, despite all the stupid expenses, I was smart because I did put a lot of money away too. Because once again, I knew that at some point, say it with me, it was all gonna go away.
She most certainly did not realize all the money was gonna go away. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been spending $1,000 a night in the club.
So I was like, you know what? We gotta put money away. You're gonna thank your future self, Christina. So put a lot of money into savings. But the craziest part of this all too is like, you know, we're talking almost $5,000 in rent, you know, like another $6,000, $7,000, whatever, on credit card expenses, all this other bullshit. That's a lot of money. But it was insane because realistically, at the time, I could afford it, which was crazy.
The thing that really blows my mind right now, and it's just so hard to think about with this one, is if she paid herself $100,000 every year from 2017 to 2021, and then she invested the remaining amount of money, so she invested $250,000 every year, and then just left it and didn't add any more money after that, she would have almost $3 million today in her investment account. And it's really concerning because I heard her say she put it in a savings account. Like, she should have had that invested in appreciating assets. See, when you put your money in a savings account like that, you're actually losing a percentage every year to inflation. And yes, high yield savings accounts exist, but I'm willing to bet money that she just opened a standard bank account and just got paid very minimal, if any at all, interest on her money. This user left a comment on our video saying, I don't understand why people don't buy homes during this. And Christina Harris, who is the original creator of this video, said, trust me, being older and wiser now, I wish that was the first thing I did. But to my defense, I was 17 and didn't even know where to begin with that. A lot of the financial decisions had to do with my age at the time, aka young and dumb. I had a teacher in school who once told me it's not a crime to be stupid, but it is a crime to stay stupid. Unfortunately, in the United States, they really don't even teach financial education in high school, so I get it. A lot of people have no idea what they're doing when they go out on their own, and a lot of people's parents actually give them really bad advice too. So I can't say I totally blame her for that money, but she definitely should have reached out to at least a financial advisor at the bare minimum to help her with that crazy amount of money. To just have that money and just be out there in the world at 17 years old is just wild. Now that I think about it though, I did actually have a personal finance class in high school, but it probably did more harm than good for people. For example, there was one of our projects where we had to plan a vacation and we were given like $1,500 and we had to budget the whole vacation. Like, yeah, it's like just a class on teaching you how to waste your money. And don't even get me started on the stock thing. They do this whole thing where they give you 10,000 fake dollars and then you have to invest it into stocks to see who can make the most money on it. Trying to make the most money with $10,000 in a matter of like a month just really teaches people like gambling habits, to be honest, because they're not teaching you long-term investing. Long-term investing can sometimes take years before you see the results of compounding interest. No, in this class, you get $10,000 and in 2 months you have to make the most money. And the person who makes the most money actually wins a prize at the end. So you're literally incentivized to buy these like crazy risky small startups to see if, you know, you get lucky and make some money on it. And it's just like, you're just teaching the rest of the class, hey, if you have $10,000, go buy some risky biotech startup company, and that's how you invest in the stock market. Like, no, why are you teaching children this? Stop! So part of our grade with that assignment is we had to write a little essay on why we chose the stocks that we did. And the stock I chose was Amazon, and only Amazon. I put all of my 10K into Amazon, and I wrote why I invested my money in there, because I was a huge Amazon fanboy back then. This was when they first were starting Prime, and they first started like getting big. They started selling groceries on there, and my essay got like a D or something like that. But looking back on it, it's so funny, because if I actually invested 10K into Amazon in 2013, it would be worth over $200,000 today. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of personal finance high school classes in the United States. Do you like free money? Well, that's good news for you, because when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna give away free money, absolutely free. All you have to do is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment down below. That enters you into the contest to have a chance of winning the $150 absolutely free. And when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna pick the lucky winner. This channel's growing fast, so do not miss out on your chance to win the free money.
I'm currently down a rabbit hole with my finances, and I'm thinking this stuff is really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys for true transparency. I'm looking at how much I spent last year versus this year, and I'm on track to spend about the same. And to give you a glimpse of my life, I am a working mom. My husband works. We have twin girls that are 3.5 years old, and we live in Pennsylvania, not far from Philadelphia. And we spend about $140,000 a year. First time I heard that number, I was like, whoa, that seems like a lot of effing money. Like, how are we spending that much money a year? But if you calculate in mortgage, interest, childcare, food, gas, like all the expenses, that's what you get. So now I'm curious, like, is that how much other people are spending too? Or am I way overspending? Am I underspending? Like, what is the average sort of American 30s age with kids spending every month? I mean, think about all the different expenses that you have. Is, you know, $12,000 a month that you're spending reasonable?
I mean, define reasonable, right? To 99% of Americans, no, that is not reasonable. That's just crazy. But to the top, like 0.1% of earners in the country who are earning 7-figure incomes, I'm sure, yeah, they spend, you know, around 2/10 of their income. Well, I can't really give my opinion on if she's recklessly spending her money or not, because her income is never disclosed. If between her and her husband are making like $700,000 a year, then yeah, that's not so bad. But between her and her husband, if they're making like $150,000 a year, then that's pretty bad. But unfortunately, the way that she's kind of alluding to it, it does seem like they're just spending everything that they make. This user commented, "Girl, we don't even make $140K a year. It's not normal." And honestly, yeah, I'm kind of wondering if this is just a weird way for her to like flex about how much money they're making without just straight up saying how much money they're making. But I don't think she realizes this is not the flex that she thinks it is. This user asks her, "Are you counting investments like 401k, IRA, brokerage accounts as spending? How much are you putting into investments a year? Based on spending, it should be like $60,000. And she replied saying, "It should be, but it's sadly not. We barely put in 20K this year." Now, like I said before, I don't know how much she's making. She never disclosed that in this video. But if she's making what kind of everybody's thinking that she's making, and she can actually invest like $60,000 a year, that would leave her kids with generational wealth. Like, that would be awesome for her family, but she's not doing that. She's just choosing satisfaction now instead of delaying satisfaction for a much greater outcome. And it's sad to see. I just saw that she posted another video talking about how she doesn't comprehend how people can max out their 401ks.
Are all the corporate girlies maxing out their 401ks? I was talking to a friend of mine and she was kind of like, "Oh, I've always maxed out my 401k." And I'm like, how? Like, do you make enough money where you're maxing out your 401k? And plus she bought this like big, beautiful house. So now she's got to be paying a mortgage of some kind. And if she's still maxing out her 401k, like, she must be making so much money, right? If you are maxing out your 401k, like, how much money do you make, if you don't mind me asking? And if you're not, like, if you kind of have the same history as me, are we okay?
Well, the thing is, maxing out a 401k actually means you're putting $24,500 a year into it, because that's how much the government allows you to put into your 401k. But when most people hear the word maxing out, or when they talk about maxing out their 401k, a lot of them are just referring to the fact that they're putting enough money in to get the max employer match. So if an employer match does like 10% of their paycheck, they'll put 10% in, and they call that maxing it out. So yeah, not too many people actually do max out their 401k. I personally don't max out my 401k, but I do invest into other things like a Roth IRA and then just my standard brokerage account. Because when you invest into a 401k, that money is essentially locked behind a tax paywall until you turn the age of 65, and there's a penalty, of course. So I invest some of my money into my just standard taxable brokerage account, where I don't get the good tax deal, but then at least the money is liquid if I need it for something, like if I want to buy a house or invest into a business. But let's be honest, she's probably not investing like she should. She's probably spending her money like the woman in this next video.
What is one bad financial decision that you regret making in life?
Okay, when I was young, I blew my credit cards.
Like maxing them out?
Maxed them out. I'm like, oh, I'll pay it. The other circumstances happen, didn't pay them. You know what I'm saying? Life happens, so I would say that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Credit card bills.
What did you max out your credit cards on?
Ooh, a lot of stuff, like designer.
The craziest part of this whole thing is for me to just comprehend how these people are spending that much on their credit cards, maxing them off to the point where they can't pay them. If I was in that position, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And they're just out there like not caring, and I just can't believe it. She said she still doesn't have her credit cards paid off. She just had to kind of ignore them. So did they go to collections? Did she file bankruptcy? But she's just out here like presumably downtown spending more money. Like, how are you sleeping?
The economy is like really bad right now, you guys. And you would not know it with the way I've been spending, but it's like really bad.
I have actually worked with somebody who was making about $80,000 a year, and he would complain day after day, "Oh, the economy is so bad. I don't have enough money. We're just living paycheck to paycheck. I've got to put some things on the credit card. We could barely getting by." And I said, "Well, do you budget?" And he was like, "No." So I said, "Hey, write out a budget, see what all your money is going to, and figure out what you're spending your money on, because that's a lot of money that you're going through." A month later, he comes up to me and he says, "I went through the numbers and I kept track of what I spent last month. We spent over $1,000 on DoorDash alone." So yeah, I get it. The economy is rough. Jobs don't pay as much as they used to. Inflation is rampant. But if you're spending $1,000 a month on DoorDash, you are living like a literal king. You are living a life of luxury. So don't sit here and complain about how poor you are, because 100 years ago, treatment like that was basically impossible unless you were royal. So yeah, spending $1,000 a month on DoorDash is pretty bad, but at least he wasn't getting a loan every time he ordered it like this girl is.
You got kicked off a firm.
It makes sense to me. You're getting what you want when you want it, but you're only paying it in fourths. So like 1/4 and then 1/4 and 1/4.
Yeah, but why'd you get kicked off?
I bought my mom a purse for her birthday.
How much was the purse?
I think it was like $400.
You bring in $50,000 a year. Well, rent's only $500.
$570.
Hearing that number of rent's usually the biggest ongoing expense. So maybe it was so high that she's almost forced to afterpay for groceries. No. Never even heard of getting kicked off.
So there's being bad at personal finance, and then there's getting kicked off of a firm, which has got to be like some kind of record. That is just insane. You see, I don't think these people actually realize what they're doing when they're borrowing money from these platforms like Affirm, the buy now, pay back later thing. It's like they don't understand exactly how interest rate works. For example, I think a lot of them think, well, if I borrow $100 and the interest rate is 10%, then I only pay $10, but they're not accounting for like the length in time that it takes them to pay it off. To show an example of this, I ran a couple of calculations just so we can see how crazy it can get. So if you borrow $10,000 at a 10% APR and you pay it off in 1 year, you're only going to pay about $550 in interest. If you pay it off in 5 years, you're going to pay $2,750 in interest. And if you pay it off in 10 years, it takes you 10 years to pay this thing off, you're going to pay around $5,850 in interest. So we went from $550 in interest to over $5,000 in interest. So it's kind of a big deal when you borrow money. Like, you got to make sure you pay it off quick, or you're just totally going to get executed with interest. A good way to understand it is that interest rate is compounding just as it would if you invested into the stock market. If you are not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and then it puts you in for a free chance to win $150. The details are in the description. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video, and that's it. You have a chance to win free money. One of the most crippling debts in the United States of America. And you guessed it, that would be credit card debt. Credit card debt has reached a staggering $1.26 trillion. And if you've watched my other videos on auto loan debt in the United States, you would know that auto loan debt is only a little bit more at $1.69 trillion, which absolutely blows my mind. Because auto loan debt, people are taking out $30,000 plus loans to buy new cars. With credit cards, it's just frivolous everyday things that people are buying on Amazon. So how did we get to a point where credit card debt is barely trailing behind auto loan debt? That's incredible.
If you're being sued for a past due debt, there's only one thing that you need to know, and that's this. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. So let's say you fall behind on a debt. It goes to collections, you refuse to pay or you can't pay, and then ultimately they file a lawsuit against you. Now, assuming that you're smarter than 95% of the people who get sued, you respond to the lawsuit, because if you don't respond, they're just going to get a default judgment against you, and then it's just game over. So let's say you respond. Now, you've seen enough content to know the collectors need to prove their case. And let's say that in this case, you know that they can't do it. Let's say they don't have the original cardholder agreement. They don't have proof that they own the debt. So you win, right? Not necessarily. Ultimately, the case gets decided by a judge. And that judge is just a human being, and they've got their own biases and their own preconceived notions about the world. So you can win the case if you get one judge, or if you get a different one, maybe you're going to lose it, and it's completely up to chance which way it's going to go.
So apparently being sued for past due debts is so common. There are lawyers on TikTok that have built their entire careers specializing in that one thing. And surprisingly, from what he says, is some people win over technicalities and they don't have to pay back their debt. Don't count on that if you have debt, but hey, he's got to sell his services some way or another. So the problem is, a lot of people think they're safe from being sued because their debt is $1,000 and under. And yeah, why would that financial firm waste all the time and resources to take you to court and sue you over that minimal amount of money? I mean, that's a drop in the ocean comparatively. There's another lawyer on TikTok who goes on to explain these financial firms will sue you no matter how much money you owe.
People always ask me, how can my creditor afford to pay an attorney hourly to sue me for a debt that's under $1,000? And what I tell them is, it's because most of these law firms are mills who work on volume, don't charge an hourly fee, but instead are simply compensated a percentage of the amount they collect from you. These debt collection mills file as many lawsuits as possible on behalf of large credit card companies such as Discover, Capital One, and Citibank. Like any industry, you have pigs and you have hogs. Pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered. One such hog was a place out of New York called Forrester and Garbus. This law firm filed 99,000 lawsuits over a 3-year period. If they worked every single weekday during that time, that would be 380 suits per day.
Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I had no idea there was a huge industry for just suing people over their debt. But it makes sense. These financial firms need to get their money back somehow, so they outsource all of the lawsuits to a different financial firm who just files hundreds of lawsuits a day. It makes sense. Even if you only win 20% of those cases that you file, that is just huge money. So let me get this straight. There's lawyers making multi-million-dollar careers out of defending people who are getting sued because they owe money from the financial firms they borrowed that money from. How are so many Americans getting themselves into this situation that nearly 4.5 million Americans are sued every year by these financial firms? Let's hear some of the solid advice from TikTok that's getting some of these people into these situations.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but don't pay those credit cards. Default on them credit cards. If you're young and you don't need your credit right now, if you're not trying to buy a car, if you're not trying to buy a house, why are you paying that? Most of that is going to interest. You done f***ed up. You done maxed them out. What you're going to be paying that for the rest of your life, homie. Don't pay it. Default. Let it go to collections. Let me tell y'all. When I was younger, when I was a young lad, no, but for real though, when I was younger, I said, you know what? I was like I was in the industry, I was a server, and I was like paying my credit cards, but I'm like, damn, I could have so much money if I was just not paying this right now, because like it'd be rent, credit cards, broke again. I was like in this vicious cycle. So I said, and I was checking everything, and I'm like, damn, this is going to interest. Like, no, I'm never gonna pay this. I remember they did like a calculation for me. It was like 15 years. I was like, 15 years? Who has 15 years? Not me.
Please, for the love of all that is good, do not take this woman's advice. If your debt ends up going into collections because you stop paying for it, it's going to stay on your record for many years, and it's going to take a couple years until they just completely give up on trying to reach out to you if you're lucky and you don't end up like one of these other people that are getting sued over their credit card debt. One other thing I really want to point out about this is she said her credit card was going to take a whole 15 entire years to pay off. We don't have the numbers, but I'm assuming that is highly unlikely. See, what she was probably looking at was how long would this take to pay off if I just did the minimum payments? And credit card companies will always encourage you to do the minimum payments because that's how they make the most amount of interest. So yeah, you could have just a couple $1,000s worth of credit card debt and it will take 15 years to pay off if you do the minimum payments, because remember, with high interest rates, you pay off a minimum, let's say it's like $30 a month. That credit card debt could be incurring $20-something a month in interest. So in reality, you're only paying a few dollars every month when you're doing the minimum.
I got sued by American Express for a credit card that I never paid back. What should I do? I mean, pay it. You know, if you got sued for a debt that you actually recognize and accumulated, the best option is to not just ignore it, it's to pay it. You can reach out to the law firm or American Express and come to a payment plan with them in order to settle and satisfy the debt. Otherwise, if you ignore it, then you could potentially have it lead to a judgment or even worse, a garnishment where they're pulling the money out of your paycheck directly and you don't have a choice in that matter anymore. So I recommend, again, if you happen to get sued on an account that you recognize, make sure to respond. You typically have 20 days to respond.
I totally agree with him. The easiest, least stressful thing to do in this situation is just to pay the debt off. Look, I know there's some TikTokers out there that say, well, I just stopped paying my debt and they never came after me and everything's good and the debt just fell off and my credit score recovered. Well, they're not talking about the unforeseen consequences. And just remember that those TikTokers probably haven't seen the end of that debt either. As we just saw, I just looked it up at the beginning of the video. It's estimated that about 4.5 million lawsuits are filed through the courts for these financial firms coming after people for not paying their debts off. The one TikToker we saw earlier, the girl who said, just don't pay your credit card off, nothing bad will happen. There could be a backlog and she could be on the list to get sued. She just doesn't know it yet. The absolute best case scenario here, and this isn't even a good thing, is your debt just goes to collections. Your credit score stays in a damaged state the entire time that debt is in collections. And then after the many years of it being in collections, let's say the creditor just gives up on collecting your debt and collections just drops the debt completely. Well, now you have to wait another 7 years for your credit score to completely forget about that debt that has been dropped. Best case scenario, you're still looking at over a decade of a damaged credit score and missing out on huge potential things in life, like buying a house. All right, well, that's all I can handle for this video. If you like the channel and the content, go ahead and subscribe. It enters you in for a chance to win free money, which I'm doing when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So you definitely want to get in for that. If you've got any crazy financial related stories, you can drop it down below in the comments and you might get featured in a future video. Thank you for watching.